Making the brave decision to go to war can be exhilarating. Knowing you are giving away your life to your country can be very patriotic. But what happens after, when you are actually in war?
You may never see another day, but you continue to fight. Losing the people who you fight with can make you lose hope.
The horrific acts of war cause much strain on someone's mind, and they may start to develop serious mental health problems such as post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. There are many unanswered questions of how one may deal with these types of issues.
Our topic has to deal with combat-related stress disorders suffered by combat veterans of the Iraq War. As a group, we were intrigued to research about how veterans with PTSD adjust to everyday life after coming back home from the Iraqi war.
This topic is worth further inquiry because it helps us understand the daily needs of veterans suffering with PTSD upon coming home. It also prepares us to help returning veterans adjust back to their normal lives.
As a result of our research, we want to educate for better support and treatment for anyone who is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Finding ones who know the horrible effects of post-traumatic stress disorder can help us better understand how one may deal with his mental illness.
It is proven that soldiers that came home from Iraq suffered 15% more depression, 18% more anxiety, and 20% more post-traumatic stress disorder than soldiers that came home from Afghanistan.
Based on our research, we have concluded that veterans returning from Iraq adjust to everyday life by substance abuse, receiving treatment from doctors, and various types of therapies.
Researching what exactly veterans do in order to cope with PTSD, it is important to get a first-hand encounter with those who have served. This led me to begin researching out to my brother, Brett. Brett is currently in the United States Marine Corps and answers some of our questions regarding PTSD. This is Seth Allgaier. I'm here with Brett Chilton. Brett, will you please introduce yourself?
I am Corporal Brett Chilton of the United States Marine Corps. I'm an 0331 machine gunner. I am on the line with my M240 Bravo. I patrol with other infantrymen, mortarmen, and assaultmen.
So if you experience symptoms of PTSD, do you know where you could go to get help?
Yes, we have like I said earlier, we get evaluated once a month by a psychiatrist to make sure we're still okay. And then there's a guy we can go, two people we can go to as a chaplain or a FRO, which FRO stands for the Family Resource Officer. And you can talk to them restricted or unrestricted, which is basically restricted means it's between you and that person and everything's confidential. Unrestricted means is they can talk to other people outside of their expertise in case there's like a more serious result or a more serious case than they know what to do with. However, the difference is anyone can know your business if it's unrestricted. But yes, there's lots of flyers up on base. There's people constantly talking to us to make sure we're okay. So yes, it is. We all know where to go if there's symptoms of PTSD.
So in the Marine Corps, how often do you come in contact with fellow soldiers that have PTSD or PTSD symptoms?
So in the Corps, when you're working with a lot of people, you develop these bonds with them, and everyone kind of goes through the same shit together. So when you are in combat, and whenever you deal with combat, everyone kind of deals with the same. It's when the real world sets in is when you start to notice these type of symptoms. So it's almost as the Corps, while you're still enlisted, keeps you together. But I have several friends that I've gotten out that seen some things that are unspeakable, and it's really hard to deal with it. It's really hard to go overseas and do the things we do, and then the government or the military decides to throw us into the real world, and they don't really give us anything. A lot of the symptoms are sadness, alcoholism, drug abuse, constant mood swings, night terrors. It's a very serious thing, and a lot of people don't recognize it. as something serious. And you see it a lot more than you want. Even if you don't see combat, I've had several friends here. I've actually had 3 friends in the past year commit suicide, and they've never saw combat. It's the amount of stress that we're under constantly, everything that we're doing, that leads to constant, like, you can get PTSD from a lot of different things in the Marine Corps, military in general. So you definitely see a lot of it, but we go to classes about once a month that get evaluated and helped on it.
As you can see in this interview, there are many soldiers that are suffering from PTSD, and not only that, but there doesn't seem to be much support from our government, according to Brett.
It is important for everyone to understand the struggles one may go through when entering war. The government provides an easy access to enter war, but does not give proper treatment if one were to experience the mental health side effects war can cause.
The people who may understand the veteran the most is the one who may work with the veteran or be around the veteran constantly. With an outside opinion, we can dig deeper into what one may be seeing a veteran do something usual. I'm here with Connor Book, and would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Connor Book. I'm a freshman at the University of Kentucky, and I'm a contracted cadet within the Army ROTC program.
And since this project is about PTSD, so what do you kind of know about PTSD?
So, I don't know all the bits and pieces of PTSD, but the main factor of it, of obviously it being a traumatic experience, like PTSD is common within the, say, like the infantry branch or artillery, depending on what you're doing, really. Like most of the combat branches have PTSD. Like you're not really going to get it from the finance guys or the Army Corps of Engineers, but like armor, aviation, and infantry, like it's just going to be something that messes with your head, really, and then it's going to be like a permanent thing because you have to come to terms with what you did. My grandpa just kind of joined the reserves to dodge the draft during the Vietnam War, and so he just didn't really do anything. He was a dental assistant in the Navy, I think. Yeah, he was a dental assistant in the Navy Med Corps, and so he didn't really have anything going on. But his brother, his older brother, was no, it was his dad or someone, but his name's Terry, but he's like schizophrenia now, and then he had PTSD from World War II because he was like one of the dudes that like landed in Normandy Beach on D-Day, and that's just like one of those things where you're jumping off a boat and literally as soon as the doors open, 3/4 of the people on that boat are gonna get shot. You're gonna have to like crawl over their dead bodies, and then your friends are drowning, your boat's sinking, you have to swim, and you're seeing like hundreds of dead people. And then he's told us stories about it, and he's like a lot older now, so I think he's come to terms with it. But and he came back from the war and then got married and had a kid, but at the same time he was like a full-blown alcoholic because he said he like literally just like couldn't sleep because of like all the crazy stuff that happened.
So since this was in like World War II, was he? Did he get any help from the government with his PTSD or?
Well, back at the time when he got out, like VA hospitals weren't marketed towards the soldiers like they did now. Yeah, I mean it's just like not like a commonplace thing because when he came back from World War II, that was like the whole society of being a man and manning up. And nowadays it's like, okay, like the Army's changed a lot as like rules have changed and like prevention programs, but back in the day you just kind of like, there were people in the Army that could go and kill 200 people and just walk home, be fine, and continue on with their normal life. And that was just part of being a man that served in the military, and that was what people signed up or got told to do.
As you can see by this interview, post-traumatic stress disorder is not a new thing. In fact, many generations who have fought in war struggled with this mental illness.
By talking with someone who can really understand how one may deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, then we can uncover why a veteran may act a certain way to cope with his or her struggles.
It can seem unfair for one to have to deal with these symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, such as irritable or aggressive behavior, reckless or self-destructive behavior, hypervigilance, exaggerated startle response, and problems with concentration, according to the Anxiety and Depression of America. It can not only harm the veteran, but the people around them.
Whether it is the person who the veteran sees every day or a person they only see to help their mental health disorder, it can affect everyone in their life.
After doing these interviews, we could understand how a soldier that went through combat feels after coming back and how a soldier tries to adapt back into normal daily life.